After her husband's brother died in battle, she couldn't bear to see his widowed sister-in-law suffer. So, he used all his military merits to secure her a noble title and welcomed her into his home as his official wife. I, his former wife, was demoted to a concubine, becoming the laughingstock of the capital. It was then that Prince Alistair made a heartfelt confession to me. I admire you. If you leave him, I will make you my one and only princess consort. I will love you for a lifetime, never leaving your side. Moved by his sincerity, I left my husband and married into the prince's residence. The world said I was fortunate to be so cherished by a husband even in a second marriage. Until one night, Prince Alistair, drunk in his study, was overheard saying, "Amelia Thorne, a soldier's daughter, utterly lacking in charm. The mere sight of her disgusts me. Marrying her against my will was only to prevent her from using her position as the first wife in the Way family to bully Evelyn. Evelyn is so pure and gentle, she is no match for her. I couldn't bear to see the one I love suffer. Your Highness is so devoted. But why did you let the one you love marry another? The Crown Prince suspects me of having designs on the throne? He would surely target my weakness. I could never allow Evelyn to be put in such a precarious position." It turned out that Prince Alistair's devotion had not only deceived the Crown Prince and the world, but it had also deceived me. But aren't you afraid the princess consort will find out sooner or later? What if she does? A helpless, twice-married orphan. Who else can she depend on if she leaves me? That is true. But Your Highness, an heir would be of great help in your bid for the throne. You must consider the bigger picture. I just can't get over this in my heart. I feel that having children with another woman is a betrayal to the one I love. But now that Evelyn has a son, and she is so understanding, she will surely appreciate my good intentions. Then shall we continue sending the contraceptive soup to the princess consort? The royal physician said that if she continues to drink it, she may have difficulty conceiving in the future. Thunder roared in my ears. Tears mixed with the rain, blurring my vision. I stumbled back to my room. Only then did I realize that the teacup holding the sobering soup had been crushed in my hand. Shards of porcelain were embedded in my palm, the wound gaping and bloody. Pain and hatred, sorrow and rage. A complex entanglement tore my heart to shreds. I, Amelia Thorne, whose parents had both sacrificed their lives for the country, dying on the battlefield. To fulfill my mother's dying wish, I married into the Way family. Who would have thought that my husband, Hector Way, would humiliate me for the sake of his widowed sister-in-law, Evelyn Prince Alistair, in my moment of desperation, had offered me a haven. For 2 years after our marriage, he had held me in the palm of his hand, and I, in turn, had loved and respected him with all my heart, without reservation. I had even blamed myself deeply for not being able to conceive. It turned out that the potions he had made me drink, bowl after bowl, were not fertility aids, but contraceptive soups. He didn't love me, and he certainly didn't want my children. It was all a lie. I was just a shield to protect the woman he loved. A cool breeze blew through the window, and the tender moments of the past turned into sharp blades, carving into my heart. What happened to your hand? Alistair pushed open the door. Seeing the wound, his drunkenness seemed to sober by 70%. I bit my lip. It is nothing. He carefully picked the porcelain shards from the wound and bandaged it. The wound is on you, but the pain is in my heart, he said, then gently kissed my palm. How can a person be so deceitful? Isn't it tiring to wear a mask and act all the time? I turned away, and frustrated tears fell, seeping into the wound in my palm. Why are you crying? Are you angry that I've been neglecting you? Be good. Let me cherish you tonight, he said, then leaned down to kiss the tears from my eyes and lifted me into his arms. I pushed him with all my might, but he pressed me down, his gaze hazy and lingering, murmuring, "Evelyn, Evelyn." My heart trembled. On our wedding night, seeing the red stain on the silk handkerchief, knowing I was still a virgin, He had wept with joy and written me a poem. A night of quiet dreams behind a silken curtain, 10 miles of spring breeze and tender feelings. Amelia, from now on, I will call you my spring maiden. Is that all right? I had nodded shyly, believing I was the spring breeze that had blown into his heart. Only today did I learn that Spring Maiden was Evelyn's pet name, and that the poem had long held the prince's unrequited, deep love for her. I cursed my own foolishness. I pushed him away in disgust and turned my back. But Alistair, thinking I was playing hard to get, became even more passionate, holding me tightly from behind, his hands roaming. My spring maiden, let's have a child, shall we? Our own child. His body was scorching hot, burning my heart. I held his hands down and scoffed. A quiet dream, a gentle spring breeze. The person you want to have a child with is probably not me. Amelia Thorne, is it? Alistair's body shuddered. He tried to sound calm, but his voice trembled slightly. My spring maiden, why would you say such a thing? Your Highness, you know very well. As if his secret had been exposed, he became angry and ashamed. Amelia Thorne, don't think that just because I dote on you, you can be so audacious. I don't know what has gotten into you today, with your cold words and taunts. You should know that I am not indispensable to you. Without me, you are a rejected, unwanted woman. Nothing at all. This was his true face, stripped of his gentle facade. His every word stabbed my heart. A guard reported from outside. Your Highness the Countess of Qinging has sent a message. The young Master Wei is crying incessantly and may be ill. She requests your Highness to come and see. How ridiculous. Alistair was not a doctor. Could he stop a baby from crying at night? Evelyn was just trying to prove her place in the prince's heart. Alistair explained awkwardly. Hector must be on duty tonight. She has no one to rely on. I'll be right back. You go to sleep first? With that, he hurried away. The desolate moonlight shone on my lonely figure. 100 knots of sorrow made it difficult to sleep. I sat until dawn, then set out for the palace to seek an audience with the emperor. Years ago, when I refused to use my parents' military merits for a reward, the emperor had said that the favor would always be reserved for me. Whatever I asked for, whenever, he would grant it. Then I would ask for a decree of divorce. After all, we were once husband and wife. I did not reveal the prince's ambition for the throne. I only said that I could not bear children and was unworthy of being the princess consort. The emperor kept his promise and said meaningfully, I hope you will think this through carefully, unless the prince has hurt you so deeply that it is beyond repair. I hope you will never have to use this decree. I said I would consider it carefully. The emperor promised to keep it a secret and not tell the prince. When I returned to the prince's residence, my handmaiden, Alara, was full of mystery. Your Highness, the prince is having the back garden decorated for your birthday. I saw the prince has found the white jade hairpin you've been looking for. He loves you so much. He said he is preparing a big surprise for the Mid-Autumn Festival. That white jade hairpin was the only memento my mother had left me. It had been stolen when I was in the Wei residence. Alistair had promised to find it and give it to me as a birthday gift. For its sake, I would endure for 3 more days. As we were speaking, Alistair walked in. He glanced at the brocade box in my hand and asked suspiciously, What is that? I quickly had Alara put it away in the cabinet. It is a gift for you, Your Highness. Let's wait until my birthday to see it. He nodded, then put on his fake, gentle expression again. My spring maiden, I had too much to drink last night. The words I said were all drunken nonsense. Please don't be angry. Sometimes, the words spoken without thinking are the long-suppressed truth. I took a step back, avoiding his outstretched hand, and curtsied respectfully. Your Highness's lesson is well received. I will remember it. His hand, hovering in midair, clenched into a fist. He said sullenly, Good. The Mid-Autumn Festival arrived. The prince invited the noblewoman of the capital to admire the chrysanthemums, and the residence was bustling with activity. Evelyn, holding a delicate flower, walked over with a smile. I have always loved chrysanthemums. The prince specially arranged this chrysanthemum viewing party for me to cheer me up. She whispered in my ear with a sneer. The prince also had this unique jade pot spring chrysanthemum specially cultivated. He said I am like this flower unparalleled. So his surprise was for his beloved again. My throat felt tight, and my chest ached. The last shred of hope I had was trampled to pieces. The fourth prince's consort and a group of noblewomen walked over, smiling. I remember. Today is the princess consort's birthday. I heard that a few days ago, the prince was almost injured while hunting a fine snow fox. It must be a birthday gift for the princess consort, the other noblewoman agreed. Yes, that snow fox is extremely rare. It shows how much the prince loves the princess consort. It is truly enviable. Just then, Alistair arrived late. He walked past me and, with a look of deep affection, draped the snow fox fur over Evelyn's shoulders. You have just given birth. You must not catch a cold. I happen to hunt this snow fox. It is perfect for you. All the noblewomen were in an uproar, their gazes filled with astonishment. Only then did Alistair realize his mistake. He quickly explained, Lady Wei is the Countess of Qinging, personally ennobled by His Majesty. She is like a sister to me. It is only natural that I show her some consideration, as a cousin. Evelyn's eyes were like silk. Thank you, brother. Then she looked at me provocatively, her eyes filled with undisguised ridicule. Alistair was in a good mood. He took out the white jade hairpin from his sleeve and held it up for Evelyn. Didn't the Countess of Qinging want to find a white jade hairpin to place under her son's pillow for good luck? I have found it for you. How will you thank me? Evelyn was triumphant, flirting with him as if no one else were there. How would you like to be thanked, brother? Alara's face was pale as she stared at the white jade hairpin. Her mouth agape. Your Highness? Isn't that your birthday gift? Only then did Alistair remember, his face flushing with embarrassment. So he had forgotten. My voice was trembling. Your Highness, that white jade hairpin is a memento from my mother. Could you perhaps give the Countess of Qinging another gift and return the hairpin to me? He took my cold hand. It is my fault. I forgot your birthday. But a promise is a promise. How can I take back a gift I have already given? Is there anything else you want? I will find it for you immediately. I looked at him with red-rimmed eyes. But I only want that. Evelyn tugged at the prince's sleeve, pouting. Brother, you can't let the princess consort bully me. Alistair was displeased. He took the jade pendant from his waist and threw it at me. This is something I have worn since I was a child. It is 1,000 times more valuable than yours. Stop being so unreasonable. With that, he led the others to admire the flowers. I stood there, trembling with anger. Alara whispered in my ear. I saw Lady Wei go to the spring gazing pond in the backyard alone, acting very suspiciously. I went to find her. As I approached from behind, I heard her say softly, Your Highness, you've come. I held out the prince's jade pendant. This is for you. Give me back my white jade hairpin. When she saw it was me, she sneered. Amelia Thorne, do you know why I had to have your mother's memento? I want to take everything that is yours. So, in the Wei residence, it was she who had instructed the servants to steal my jade hairpin. And now she had deliberately made the prince find it just to humiliate me in front of everyone. I don't understand. Why are you targeting me? Her face darkened, her eyes flashing with a venomous light. 10 years ago, at the royal spring hunt, you stole the show. Even the emperor praised you and wanted to arrange a marriage for you, letting you choose from among all the princes. I was 9 that year. I had returned to the capital with my parents for an audience with the emperor. I had saved a prince who had been attacked by a tiger and was unconscious. The emperor praised my bravery and wanted to arrange a marriage. But my parents and I declined. We returned to the northern border, and the matter was forgotten. I never thought I would have offended Evelyn, making her hate me for so many years. She viciously snapped the jade hairpin in two and threw it into the pond. If you want it, Go get it yourself. I jumped into the cold pond, desperately searching. I only found half of the broken jade. The other half was nowhere to be found. She stood on the bank, taunting me. What are you? Your father was just a common soldier. I am the daughter of the Grand Tutor. Why should I be compared to you? Hearing her insult my father, I could no longer hold back. I grabbed her ankle and pulled her into the pond. I grabbed her hair and pushed her head underwater. Evelyn cried out in fear, struggling and shouting for help. Alistair rushed over, furious. Amelia Thorne, are you mad? He jumped into the pond, kicked me in the stomach, and picked up Evelyn, his eyes full of pity. You have just given birth. How can you catch a cold? Someone quickly wrapped the snow fox fur around her. She was still putting on a show. It was my fault. I upset the princess consort. Alistair was furious. He roared at me in the pond. Amelia Thorne, apologize immediately, or you can stay in there. I just heard Alara's terrified cry. So much blood! Your Highness, save the princess consort! I looked down and saw a blood-red flower blooming in the pond. My vision went black, and I fell backwards. Before I closed my eyes, a figure in bright yellow rushed towards me. I don't know how long passed. I vaguely heard someone whispering. Your Highness, the princess consort has had a miscarriage. How can that be? Wasn't she drinking contraceptive soup? How could she be a month pregnant? The princess consort must have been desperate for a child and taken some strong tonics, which temporarily counteracted the contraceptive soup. But the contraceptive soup is extremely cold in nature. The child was not destined to survive, and with the fall into the cold water and the violent blow, the princess consort will not be able to have children in the future. Tears streamed from my eyes. When I opened them, Alistair was kneeling by my bed, his eyes red, a mixture of pity, self-blame, and regret in his gaze. He took my cold hand. My spring maiden, that physician is a quack. I will find the best doctor to cure you, okay? I turned my head away, not looking at him. A guard came to report. Your Highness, the Countess of Qingning has a high fever and requests your Highness to go see her. Alistair couldn't hide his anxiety. My spring maiden! It was your fault in the end. She was frightened because of you. Be good. Come with me to apologize to her. She has a kind heart. She will surely forgive you. I let out a cackle, laughing until tears streamed down my face. All right, Your Highness, you go first. I will go to the Jing'an Temple to pray for our lost child. I will be there shortly. Alistair believed me. He even praised me for being sensible and hurried away. Alara prepared the carriage, her eyes full of tears. Your Highness, have you really decided? I clutched the half of the broken jade and walked out of the prince's residence without looking back. Alistair waited for an hour at the Wei residence, but Amelia did not appear. He was very displeased, so he sent a servant to the Jing'an Temple to find her. Your Highness, the princess consort is spoiled and arrogant. How could she sincerely apologize to me? Evelyn chattered on. The physician had clearly said she was fine, but she was still intentionally or unintentionally sowing discord. Alistair was annoyed. He remembered that the jade hairpin was a memento of Amelia's late mother. He regretted making her come to apologize to Evelyn. She must be angry with him. But then he thought, she is a helpless orphan who needs my protection. She is just throwing a little tantrum. What else can she do? I'll just sweet talk her when I get back. She is the easiest to coax. At that thought, Amelia's smiling, pretty face appeared in his mind, and a smile touched his own lips. He suddenly felt an urgent desire to see her. Just then, the servant he had sent ran in and knelt before Alistair, wailing, Your Highness. I had just arrived at the Jing'an Temple when I saw some ruffians set fire to the princess consort's carriage with gunpowder. The princess consort and everyone in the carriage were blown to pieces, their bodies dismembered. Alistair felt a boom in his ears, as if his entire body had been struck by lightning. He had never been so vulnerable. His body swayed, and he almost lost his footing. Evelyn sneered. It is just another one of the princess consort's little tricks to get attention. She is always using these despicable schemes. With a slap, a hand struck her face. She held her swollen cheek and looked up. Alistair's gaze was ferocious, his eyes bloodshot. He grabbed her by the neck. "If you dare say another bad word about her, I will kill you." Evelyn trembled in fear, kneeling on the ground and begging for mercy. Alistair clutched his chest. "Summonan, prepare a horse." Ever since he was attacked by a tiger and fell from a horse as a child, he had been terrified of riding. He hadn't touched the reins in years. But now, nothing scared him more than losing Amelia. He spurred his horse, galloping like an arrow. The guard following closely behind him spoke with a trembling voice. "Your Highness, at the entrance of the Jingen Temple, I also saw the Crown Prince's men. He said the Crown Prince wanted me to tell your Highness to behave yourself." Alistair felt a sweet taste in his throat. His vision went black, and he almost fell from his horse. He should have known. From the day he used Amelia as a shield for his beloved. Wasn't this inevitable? But he had never thought to send someone to protect her. Was she just a shield? Did he not care for her at all? If that were the case, why were self-blame, guilt, and regret tormenting his heart so fiercely? When he arrived at the entrance of the Jingen Temple and saw the bloody, mangled remains, Alistair swayed and fell from his horse. He coughed up a mouthful of blood and roared. "No, this isn't real." The veins on Alistair's forehead bulged, tears and blood mingled, dripping onto the ground. He regretted loving her so deeply, yet not realizing it. He hated his own incompetence and negligence even more. In that moment, his heart felt like it was being torn apart by 1,000 blades, shredded to pieces. A guard knelt beside him with the coroner. "Your Highness, upon examination, those are all the remains of men. The princess consort was not in the carriage at the time of the incident." Alistair's heart, which had been like dead ashes, was rekindled with hope. He mounted his horse without a second thought and galloped back to the prince's residence. He prayed to the heavens 1,000 times. As long as Amelia was alive, he was willing to trade his most precious possession, even his own life. As long as she was alive, he would start over with her. He would love her properly, have children and grandchildren with her, and grow old together. At that thought, a sweet feeling of joy after a narrow escape filled his heart. When he returned to the prince's residence, he flew in, shouting, "My spring maiden! My spring maiden!" He expected her to throw herself into his arms as she used to, her eyes full of spring, to wipe the sweat from his brow. But this time, he was destined to be disappointed. Alistair walked into her chambers. They were empty. On the table was a brocade box. Wasn't that the gift his spring maiden said she would give him on her birthday? He started to blame himself again. "I forgot her birthday gift, and she still prepared a gift for me." He caressed the brocade box and gently opened it. It was a royal decree. He slowly unrolled it. The 2 words "divorce decree" once again shattered his heart. A piece of silk paper fluttered down. "The spring mountains are like emeralds, the grass like mist. From now on, we go our separate ways." It was her farewell letter. Tears blurred the words. Stumbling to his feet, he was about to go to the palace to ask why his father had issued a divorce decree. The emperor already knew everything that had happened at the prince's residence during the Mid-Autumn Festival. He sat on his high throne, his face ashen. "The princess consort once promised me that unless you hurt her so deeply that it was beyond repair, she would never use this decree. Now it is clear that she is completely disheartened with you, utterly disillusioned. Alistair, Alistair. Her father, General Thorne, sacrificed his life for the country, and she is your savior. How can you be so cold-hearted?" Alistair's body shuddered. So she was not an ordinary orphan, but the daughter of the great general who struck fear into the hearts of the enemy. He had underestimated her! "Why did you say she is my savior, father? The person who saved you from the tiger's claws that year was Amelia Thorne." Alistair's body went limp, and he collapsed to the floor. When he opened his eyes that year, the first person he saw was Evelyn. He had mistaken his savior, and she had been misleading and deceiving him all along. He hated Evelyn for her interference, but he hated himself even more for being so blind. Tears streamed down his face. He punched his own chest over and over. As long as Amelia was alive, he would find her, even if he had to search to the ends of the earth. Leaving the Jing'an temple, I looked back at the capital. My mother thought I would be happy for the rest of my life if I stayed here and married into a noble family. Now it was all proven to be a dream. My fate was in my own hands. Even if I were to die on the battlefield in the future, it would be a life of fulfillment. A loud explosion from behind seemed to be a send-off. I spurred my horse and galloped towards the northern border. From then on, I changed my name to Caspian, disguised myself as a man, and joined the army under my father's close friend, General Thorne. Although I had neglected my training in the inner courtyards these past few years, my foundation was still there. I practiced diligently from dawn till dusk, and my progress was rapid. General Thorne also taught me everything he knew. Soon, the name Caspian became well known in the army, and I received numerous awards. This also caught the attention of the commander of the northern border, General Caspian. He looked me up and down, his voice hoarse. "So you are Caspian. Come and be my adjutant." I slowly looked up. The man before me was tall and burly, his face dark, a thick beard, like a lion's mane, wild and unrestrained. His bright, shining eyes seemed to see right through me. I had heard that General Caspian was only in his early 20s, but was already a brave and skilled warrior who had won many battles. But I never thought he would look like this. His imposing presence was intimidating. "General, I am afraid I am not up to the task." General Thorne also tried to smooth things over for me. "He is still young and needs more experience. Perhaps the general should consider someone else." General Caspian's brow furrowed, his expression stern. "Caspian, report to my tent immediately." I went to the commander's tent with trepidation, only to find that things were much worse than I had imagined. It turned out that the grain supplies from the court should have arrived 3 days ago, but they were still delayed, which had affected the commander's battle plans. The morale in the army was low. General Caspian had not slept for 3 days. He threw his sword at me. "Caspian, you will secretly lead a light cavalry to meet the grain supplies. I want to see the grain in front of my tent within a day. If anyone dares to defy a military order, I authorize you to execute them on the spot." I did not dare to delay. I immediately set out with the soldiers, riding without stopping. To save time, I took a dangerous shortcut alone, leaving the light cavalry to take the main road to meet the grain supplies. Finally, at a post station 300 miles south of the northern border city, I found the grain transport team resting. It turned out that the general in charge of the grain transport had learned that his wife was ill, and had ordered the team to stop midway while he returned home to see her. This had delayed them for 3 days. I ordered my men to tie up the general. He refused to comply and started to fight. I disarmed him in 3 moves, the sword at his neck. Looking closely, I saw it was Hector Way. "Amelia Thorne, you are not dead. What are you doing here? Do you know that the prince and the crown prince are fighting to the death over you?" Hearing Alistair's name again, I felt nothing. "Hector Way, you have delayed the grain transport and the battle for your own personal matters. What is your crime?" But he was unconcerned. "You are a woman from the inner courtyards. What do you know? Let me go. Don't forget, I, Hector Way, have a distinguished military record, personally rewarded by the Emperor, and look at you, all dirty and disheveled. I thought you had found a protector in the prince, but in the end, you are just a pawn in the struggle between the prince and the crown prince. Now, you must be full of regret. You would rather be my concubine than have a divorce, wouldn't you? How can there be such a shameless person?" I slapped him across the face. "Hector Way, you still have the nerve to mention your distinguished military record. In the Battle of the Northern Border that year, it was your misjudgment that led to the defeat. You even wanted to abandon the city and flee. If it weren't for your brother who gave his life to defend the last stand and save you, you would have been a ghost under the Huns' swords. And how did you repay your deceased brother? Before his body was even cold, you eagerly married his widow, so that the hero could not rest in peace. Hector's eyes widened in shock. He had silenced everyone who knew the truth that year, but he never thought that a soldier who had survived would now be under General Thorne's command. Hector Way, if you dare to reveal my identity, I will let the whole world know what you have done. Hector's lips trembled, and he was speechless. The next evening, when the grain supplies appeared in front of the commander's tent, the whole army erupted in cheers. I handed the bound Hector over to General Caspian. Hector Way, for delaying the military, you are sentenced to 100 lashes to uphold military discipline. After 100 lashes, Hector's legs were crippled. He was carried back to the capital to be punished. With the grain supplies, General Caspian was overjoyed and rewarded the army. Now, the old Hun Shan Yu was old and weak. His sons were restless and at odds. According to our spies, half of the border guards had been recalled to the Huns' main camp. Now was the perfect time to attack. General Caspian planned to attack the Huns in 3 days and retake the lost city of Yanbei. The morale in the army was high. After a few rounds of drinks, General Caspian, his face flushed, called me into his tent and put his arm around me. Caspian, I will record your merit for the grain transport. When we return to the capital, I will ask for a reward for you. I nervously stepped back. He grinned, revealing a row of white teeth. I've been worried about the grain supplies these past few days. I haven't washed my face or shaved. I must have scared you, adjutant. Simone, prepare a bath for me. The soldiers waiting outside brought a bathtub into the tent. I lowered my head silently. I will not delay the general's bath. I will take my leave. But to my surprise, he grabbed my wrist. Caspian, we're all men. What is there to be embarrassed about? Come, help me with my face and shave. He sat in front of me with his eyes closed, his face tilted up. I had no choice. I gently wiped the dirt from his face with a damp cloth. The general closed his eyes and rested, seeming to enjoy it. I also relaxed and skillfully moved the sharp razor across his face. His beard fell away, inch by inch, revealing a face with strong lines, incredibly handsome. Just then, a report from outside the tent. General Caspian, the prince is here to visit. He is at the entrance of the tent. My hand trembled, and I lightly nicked his cheek, leaving a thin red line. I quickly knelt and begged for mercy. General, spare my life. He wiped the blood from his face and smiled. A captivating smile. If I am disfigured, you'll have to take responsibility. With that, he put on his outer robe and walked out. My heart was in a panic. I listened quietly to the commotion outside. What is so urgent that the prince had to come in person at this hour? Of course, it is for my princess consort. There are no women in my camp. The prince should leave. I received a message that someone saw the princess consort on the northern border. I have searched every household and checked every tent. Only your tent is left. I had nowhere to hide, nowhere to retreat. In a moment of desperation, I hid in the bathtub. General Caspian walked in, stood in front of the bathtub, took off his outer robe, revealing his muscular body. I am going to bathe. If the prince wants to find someone, then please do so. With that, he stepped into the bathtub and shielded me by his side. Alistair looked around, found nothing, and with a sigh of disappointment, this is a portrait of the princess consort. If you see her, escort her back to the capital immediately. Tell her I am waiting for her to come home. He turned and walked out of the tent. I could no longer hold my breath. I burst out of the water, my long hair cascading down my chest. General Caspian leaned against the side of the bathtub and pulled me up with one hand. Should I call you Caspian, or should I call you Princess Consort? I slapped him across the face, broke free from his grasp, jumped out of the bathtub, and drew the sword from his tent, holding it to my own neck. Why do you have to humiliate me, General? You could have just handed me over to the prince, or exposed my identity and charged me with deceiving the emperor. Seeing my intense reaction, he knew he had misspoken. His face flushed, and he got up, got dressed, and bowed deeply to me. It was my fault. I apologize. With that, he gripped the blade of the sword in my hand. The veins on the back of his hand bulged, and blood dripped down. I quickly let go, and the sword clattered to the ground. He came over and draped his clothes over me. The prince didn't find you tonight. He won't give up so easily. You can rest in my tent. I will stand guard outside for you. The next day, a secret message came from the capital. The prince left in a hurry. General Thorn let out a long sigh. The capital was about to change. The great battle with the Huns was imminent, and we had no time for other thoughts. When I saw General Caspian again, I volunteered. General, I grew up in Yanbei and am extremely familiar with the terrain. Please allow me to lead the charge. His brows were like distant mountains, his eyes under his long lashes deep and resolute. Caspian, are you not afraid of death? I felt no fear and met his burning gaze. My father and mother died there. He raised his index finger and gently pressed it against my lips, saying with conviction, with me here, I will not let anything happen to you. Caspian, I hereby appoint you as the vanguard general. Lead the army and break the city. I and General Thorn gathered all of my father's former subordinates and soldiers. In the howling wind, the war drums beat. I stood on high ground and looked towards Yanbei. Soldiers, 6 years ago, my father, my mother, and our brothers all died there. Today, even if we have to shed our last drop of blood, even if we have to become a handful of yellow earth on the border, we will retake Yanbei. The soldiers had been waiting for this day of revenge for a long time. Their shouts pierced the sky. We will not return until we have taken Yanbei. Kill, kill, kill. The horns sounded. The war drums beat again. The soldiers charged forward bravely, rushing towards the city walls. Arrows rained down, and catapults roared. One group of soldiers fell, but another fought with even greater courage. Countless soldiers used their bodies as shields, helping General Thorn and me climb the siege ladders and cross the city walls. Finally, I had avenged my parents. I personally killed the commanding general and held his head high. The soldiers cheered. Unexpectedly, an enemy behind me raised his broadsword and swung at me. I heard a whoosh by my ear, and the person behind me was pierced by an arrow. It was General Caspian who had saved my life. He smiled at me, then led his army into Yanbei, slaughtering the enemy until they were in full retreat. The soldiers pressed their advantage and took another enemy city. The Huns requested a truce, ceding territory and promising to never invade our borders again. The great battle was won. Yanbei was brightly lit, and the soldiers of the 3 armies raised their cups in celebration. The soldiers sat around, drinking heavily and eating heartily. I silently stood up and went to the city wall. The sand was like snow, the moon like a hook. I couldn't hide the desolation in my heart. General Caspian jumped onto the city wall, leaned against me, and handed me a strong drink. Caspian, you will be credited with the first merit for taking Yanbei. I drank it in one gulp. Thank you, General, for saving me again. He turned his head, his gaze burning. The Emperor has summoned me back to the capital to be rewarded. I will leave tomorrow. You will come with me. Seeing me with my head down, silent, he pointed towards the capital. You no longer need to hide. Go back and tell them openly that you are not anyone's princess consort, that you do not need to depend on anyone to live. You are a hero of our great Liang. You are you. Perhaps the wine was too strong, or perhaps his words had struck a chord in my heart. Tears streamed down my face. I wiped them away in embarrassment and raised my cup. General Caspian, a scholar dies for his confidant. This cup, I, Caspian, toast to you. We will not go home until we are drunk. That night, we drank a lot of wine and got completely drunk. I cried and laughed freely. May Caspian and Caspian. Caspian, what is your name? He smiled slightly. Caspian Yoon. I shouted at the sky and the wind. May Caspian and Caspian Yoon's friendship last forever. When I turned back, I only saw his hesitant, inscrutable gaze. General Caspian and I returned to the capital with 100,000 soldiers. On the way, we kept receiving news. The crown prince was having an affair with General Wei's wife. Even the child was the crown prince's. When the crippled Hector found out, he killed Evelyn with his sword and then committed suicide. The prince, having obtained evidence of the crown prince's private gunpowder storage and embezzlement, had brought him down. The emperor, in a rage, had deposed the crown prince and exiled him to Changzhou. After that, the emperor fell ill and the prince took over the affairs of the court. General Caspian's brow was furrowed. He suspected something was amiss. Sure enough, when we reached the city gates, the guards stopped us. By the emperor's order, the two generals are to remove their armor and swords and enter the city alone. The army is to retreat 30 miles. After removing our gear, I followed behind General Caspian with my head down and walked into the main hall. The emperor sat on his high throne, his spirit weak, his voice feeble. Caspian Yun has retaken Yanbei and protected the peace of the northern border. He is to be heavily rewarded. The general pulled me to his side. Your Majesty, the one who performed the great merit this time is Caspian. It was he who successfully led the army to break the city, allowing us to retake Yanbei. I slowly looked up. Just then, from the side, my spring maiden, is that you? Alistair's eyes were full of tears. In front of everyone, he pulled me into his arms. I knew you weren't dead. I have searched all over Liang. Why did you have to hide from me? I know I was wrong. Come back to me. Let's start over. I pushed him away. Your Highness, we are already divorced. I have nothing more to do with you. The general took my wrist and shielded me behind him. Alistair glared at him. So it was you who hid my spring maiden, Caspian Yun? How dare you covet your imperial sister-in-law? My heart skipped a beat. I looked at the general beside me. He was the emperor's third son, the unfavored prince who had been raised in the army since he was a child. Summoning, Caspian Yun is plotting a rebellion. Seize him. The soldiers outside the hall seemed to have been prepared and surrounded us. Caspian Yun was bound and knelt in the hall. Father, your son is loyal to you. The emperor pointed at Alistair and cursed. You unfilial son, are you trying to force me to abdicate? With that, he fainted. Alistair had rebelled. He forced the old emperor to issue an edict and hastily ascended the throne. He used Caspian Yun's life as a threat, forcing me to marry him again. The chambers were filled with vibrant flowers, so red they were blinding, just like on our first wedding day. My spring maiden, look, I have had your favorite camellias prepared. Alistair suddenly burst into tears. My spring maiden, the days you were not by my side, I was living in a living hell, my heart torn to pieces. It was only after I lost you that I realized you are my one true love. I did all this for you. Only by sitting on the supreme throne can I protect the one I love. I didn't answer. I smiled and handed him the wedding wine. He drank it with a smile, then happily took out a gold, inlaid jade hairpin from his sleeve and put it in my hair. I drained the spring-gazing pond, scoop by scoop, to find your broken jade. I personally polished the other half from the white jade I have worn since I was a child and inlaid it with gold. Now this jade hairpin is like you and me, our love as strong as gold, destined to be together for a lifetime. I took off the hairpin, and at the gold inlay, without hesitation, snapped it in two. I contemptuously threw his half of the jade to the ground, where it shattered. Your jade is not worthy of my late mother's memento. Alistair looked at me in astonishment. My spring maiden, I scoffed. What a night of quiet dreams behind a silken curtain, 10 miles of spring breeze and tender feelings. Evelyn is your spring maiden, not me. Don't call me that name again. It disgusts me. He took my hand, his eyes red. It was my fault. I mistook her for you, which is why I hurt you and our child. Amelia, I am sorry. I will spend the rest of my life atoning for my sins. I shook my head. Alistair, if I had known you were this kind of person, I would rather have never saved you. Now, I have no love or hatred for you. I just wish to have no more to do with you. Stop. You are not worthy of being the emperor. If you continue to be so stubborn, you will only become a sinner of the great Liang. Alistair clenched his fists, his eyes bloodshot. He overturned the table. Then who do you say is worthy of sitting on this throne, Caspian Yun? Is it that you have already fallen in love with him? His face was twisted. He threw his head back and laughed like a madman. I am destined to sit on this throne. You are my woman. No one can take you away. Then, let's see if you have the life to do so. With that, I drew a short knife and stabbed him in the right shoulder. With a turn, I held the blade to his neck. He wanted to struggle, but his limbs were weak and limp. He fell to the ground, tears streaming down his face. You put something in the wine. How could you be so cruel to me? In an instant, the outside of the hall was lit up with fire, and the sound of a crowd grew loud. Caspian Yun charged in with his soldiers. It turned out that the emperor had long been aware of the prince's rebellious intentions, and had sent a message to the distant Caspian Yun on the northern border to return quickly. This was all a play acted out by the emperor and him. The purpose was to lure the prince and his faction into a trap. On the execution ground, Alistair was dressed in coarse prison clothes, his hair disheveled. His former glory was gone. He begged to see me one last time. I poured him his last cup of wine and turned away without a second thought. From behind, I heard his heart-wrenching cries. Amelia, I know I was wrong. If there is a next life, I will never ever fail you. After this, the old emperor was exhausted and had no more strength. He passed the throne to Caspian Yun. On the day I returned to the northern border, the new emperor came to see me off. He rode with me to the city gates. Looking at the rising sun, he seemed to want to say something but bit his lip and remained silent. I bid him farewell. Your Majesty, please go back. Please rest assured, Caspian will be with the northern border, and I will defend the border for the great Liang with my life. He quickly helped me up and took my wrist. Do you have to be so distant with me? I didn't mean to hide my identity. It is just, I took a step back. You are the sovereign, and I am a subject. Your Majesty does not need to explain to me. His gaze was burning, full of anticipation. Why don't you? Not go back. Stay and be the empress. My harem will only have an empress. I smiled and shook my head. Your Majesty's harem cannot accommodate an empress, who cannot have children. And I, Caspian, am no longer willing to be confined in a cage. I should be like a bird flying to my mountain. Caspian Yun's eyes were misty, but his lips held a warm smile. Good. Then I wish you eternal freedom and a life of fulfillment. The morning glow filled the sky, its brilliant light illuminating the path ahead. I faced the rising sun and spurred my horse.